I was completely stunned when found out my wife and my best friend were planning to get pregnant. I guess I should call him my former best friend at this point, but it's hard to accept it's all gone just like that. You spend so many years with a person building a relationship, and one day it all turns to dust. I've known him since high school, 15 years ago. He was like a brother to me and like a son to my parents. When we were younger, we were at each other's houses all the time. He was always coming with my family on trips, and I did the same with his family. We've done so much together. He was the best man at my wedding, and I would have been the best man at his wedding. Many trips and nights spent out together. Many times we helped each other. Many conversations about life, love, and ourselves. He was always my go-to person in tight situations and when I needed advice. It's hard to say how much losing him hurts, because for whatever else he is, he was always there for me when I needed him and a solid source of advice. He was a true friend, until he wasn't. It may be as big of a blow to lose him as losing my wife. I've been married to my wife for almost 5 years, but we've been together for 7. I remember when we first met. Love at first sight. She was gorgeous and had these really piercing blue eyes and a really infectious laugh. We hit it off, and to my surprise she accepted when I asked her out, even though I felt like she was out of my league. I fell even more in love with her as we got to know each other. She had such a passion for life and helping people. She was so kind and gentle with everyone, just a really warm person, and that made me love her more. I loved being married to her, and I always felt our marriage was great, not even just good. I was not one of those husbands that let himself go. I took care of myself and ate well. I remembered all of our anniversaries and special dates. When she talked to me, I listened and paid attention. I took an interest in her life genuinely because I loved her and it was important to me, but I also gave her space and avoided being too needy or clingy. I made sure to do my part around the house. I cleaned as much as she did. Our bed life was great, as far as I could tell. I did my best to love her and care for her the way a husband should and show her she was appreciated. I tried my best to keep dating her after we married. I can say without any doubt that I never took her for granted. I don't know what else I could have done. I have asked myself that over and over again, and I still don't know. I wonder if I did too much. Did she think I was too much of a pushover? Did she not respect me? I'm not saying our marriage was perfect. We did have arguments, but they were never major ones. The trouble started when my best friend broke up with his girlfriend. He was pretty upset about it and took it hard. I talked to him, but my wife asked me one day if I cared if she went out for a coffee with him to talk and give him a woman's view/opinion. I told her that was fine with me. She and my best friend were also friends. We'd done couples trips with my friend and his girlfriend, and she'd also hung out with him tons, because he was around me so much. I didn't think anything of it because their relationship never seemed inappropriate. I do remember him saying I was lucky and she was attractive when we first started dating and when I married her, but there were no inappropriate jokes or anything like that. My wife might have said he was handsome at some point, but that was it. I saw no red flags, and even after thinking about it more, I still don't see any. I never saw anything which made me think there was every chance of them being more than friends. When my wife came back from coffee, she seemed a bit off. She was really angry with his ex and said that he deserved better. I remember telling her something like he's young and he'll mend in time, and she seemed very upset by this. She said that he needed time and that whatever girl ended up with him would be very lucky and his ex was a fool to leave him. I may be misremembering parts of that conversation, but that was the basic gist. She was very sparse on details and very vague, but it didn't seem weird to me at that time. It seemed like she was being protective the same way I would be protective of him as my friend. Her behavior started getting stranger after that night. She wasn't doing anything really overt or suspicious, but she was vague about what she was doing. She would say that she's going to see one of her friends or to run an errand. Stuff like that. I'm not a controlling person and she'd never given me a reason to doubt her, so I didn't make an issue out of it. and really at that time I didn't find it so strange. I noticed my friend was being weird too, but I thought it was because of his split and him being depressed. I would invite him to hang out, and he'd turn me down, which was unusual. He never had a reason other than he was busy. I started seeing less and less of him, and when I did see him he was different. I would not say nervous, but definitely seemed not to be comfortable. He sent me a message asking me to stop by his house one day. He said we needed to talk about some things and he had to get some stuff off his chest. I drove over there not suspecting anything. I knocked on the door and he came to answer. I tried to make some jokes and light conversation, and he completely ignored me. He asked me to go into the living room and there was my wife sitting on his couch. I don't know if I knew at that moment, but I did feel a sense of dread start to come over me. She started crying almost as soon as I walked in, and he jumped right in and told me that there was no easy way to say what he was about to say, but he and my wife were in love and wanted to be together. I stood there completely stunned. I felt like I wasn't even alive for a while. When I started to come back to my senses, they both tried to say how sorry they were and that they both loved me and regret it happening. They told me that this just happened and they never intended for things to turn out like this. They knew they were wrong, but it didn't matter because they were in love. They both promised that they had not had closeness and it was only an emotional affair. I'm not sure if that is true or not, but I don't know if it really matters. And that is basically where we are now. Since that day, I've gotten more texts from them apologizing and ones from my wife asking if I'm okay and telling me she's here for me and still cares for me, but I mostly ignore them. They aren't as frequent anymore either. She decided to move out of our house. I didn't ask her where she was going, but a friend of mine told me that she moved in with my former friend as soon as she left. That was only a few months ago. She stopped by the house a few days ago to pick up some things. I tried to avoid her, but then she asked me if I had a second. She told me that she and my former friend are trying to get pregnant. She wanted to give me a heads up so that we can deal with it as we go through our divorce. She also wanted to tell me personally because she felt like I deserved to know and hear it from her. It hurt so much to hear how she's already moving on. We wanted to have children together, but she wanted to wait until she turned 30. Now he's going to get to be the father to her children and I'm going to have to watch her carry his child. I am here looking for any advice you can give me. I don't know how to deal with her getting pregnant. I feel like that's going to be a struggle and source of pain once it happens. I feel so jealous of him because he is getting the life I wanted with her. I also know that her getting pregnant is really the end. Once that happens, there's no chance we could reconcile. I have considered asking her to try counseling, but I haven't because I doubt she would be interested since she wants him and a life together with him. I also don't know how to process all of this. I don't know how they could both do something like this or how I could not see it. I don't understand why she left when we were happy. I feel like I don't believe in anything anymore. If you can't trust your wife and best friend and a marriage doesn't last with as much effort as I put in, then nothing is real and life is all one big lie. Life just isn't fair sometimes. The last few days have been the best I've had since my wife left. I feel like I'm at least able now to think of what comes next. I don't have much of an update, but I thought you guys deserved to know about a few things. I decided I'm going to message my former friend's ex to see what her version of the breakup is. Nothing may come of it, but I think I have to at least see if I can find out anything else. I had talked to one attorney, but haven't really gotten serious about a lawyer. Next week I will start a serious look for one. My friends and family have given me some recommendations, so I will go through their list. I don't know when I will start it, but I'm pretty sure I'll enroll in some type of counseling. I don't feel like my mental state right now is very good, and I don't think I have the tools to pull myself out of this. I need help. I am thinking of writing to my wife and ex-friend. A lot of you asked me why I didn't do anything to him when they told me, and that bothered me because I realized I never took the change to tell them how I feel and how they've hurt me. I feel like they need to know even if they don't care. There were a lot of other suggestions about things to do to help deal with the situation. I'm going to make some changes around my house to try and make things more comfortable here until I can move. I will also try to keep myself busy, but in reality the hard part so far has been nights when I am alone and it is quiet like now. Update. One of the things a lot of people recommended on the original was for me to contact my ex-friends, just going to say EF for ease, ex-girlfriend, to see if she knew anything about his affair with my wife. I did contact her, but she confirmed EF's story about the reasons for their breakup. I asked if she had noticed anything weird or had any reason to suspect he was involved at all with another woman before they split, and she said she didn't have any suspicions. I doubt she has any reason not to be honest with me, and she seemed genuinely shocked that they ended up together, so I believe her. In my first post, I added an update about writing my EF and wife a letter for closure. Most of you advised me not to do this. I decided to follow that advice. I wrote it for myself, but I didn't send it. I think you guys were right that it was better to not send it since they wouldn't care anyway. I finally chose an attorney to represent me a few weeks ago. He was someone that was recommended to me, and I felt like I could trust him to protect me and make sure I came out of the divorce as whole as possible. I officially filed for divorce last week. That was a hard day, but I knew it had to happen. I won't say that there isn't still a part of me that fantasizes about her coming back and saying she made a mistake and wants to start over, but that's not realistic and I can't live my life based on a fantasy that will never happen. I think any boost I felt leading up to the filing was taken away by the filing, and I have been feeling more depressed again. I looked into some personal counseling like you guys suggested, but I decided now was not the best time. I recently started a new project at work, and with some of the changes I've made in my life I've been staying busy, which helps. It will probably sound crazy to say this, but there is also a part of me that doesn't really want to feel better. I feel like this is how I should feel when my marriage is ending. About the alienation of affection suit. I decided not to pursue it. I know that most of you wanted me to do this, but my attorney told me that it wouldn't be easy and he couldn't guarantee anything. I just don't care about the money. Even if I had pursued it and won, it wouldn't have changed anything. And my main desire right now is to be done with this as soon as possible. I have decided to move away and start over once this is done, and I can't do that until my divorce wraps up. The only other interesting update I have is that after my wife got her papers, she contacted me asking if we could meet and talk. I haven't responded and don't know if I will. I don't feel like I have anything left to say to her, and I don't think she has anything to tell me that I want to hear. As far as what I've been doing, I've been running more. I've done some reading. Tried yoga and some meditation. I like the yoga, but the meditation not so much. Work has been much busier, which is good. I thought about learning French, but I probably will put that on hold for now. I have some other projects I started for my hobbies. Took fishing up again. Just really trying to stay busy so I don't have as much time alone where my mind is idle. As far as what changes I've made around the house, I got rid of a lot of trinkets and things that reminded me of my wife. I did end up getting a body pillow for my bed, and as dumb as that seems, it helped me relax more. I am still staying in the guest room, but I may move back into the master soon. It doesn't matter much at this point. I still am not sleeping well and don't think changing rooms would make a difference. That's about it. I have been reading a lot more about failed relationships and through some of the sites that were recommended to me. I watched one video on YouTube that has helped me reframe the way I thought about our relationship. I won't link it since I don't know if that is okay, but the short version is that the man giving the talk says that if the person you are with moves on quickly from you, then they weren't really your one. I try now to think about my wife that way. I thought she was my one, but she never really was if she could do all of this. He also made some really good points about memories and accepting when someone you cared about becomes a memory. That's really all I have to say. Not a really happy or eventful update, but that's how it goes, I guess. Wife accidentally sent me proof of cheating with her ex. In 2018 I deployed and my wife and I were having problems. We had gotten married earlier that year and she was threatening to divorce me 2 months after being married and did it well over 10 times throughout the deployment. It hugely bothered me, and I would beg for her to forgive me for whatever argument and just do what she wanted. I am not perfect and do not think I am better than her, but she did several things like this. Let me explain. First, we dated in high school and dated for a while, and I did cheat on her. We broke up and months later realized what a huge mistake I made and broke up with the girl, and we got back together. We were on and off for years and eventually got married after I joined the Marines. In 2018, she went out with her friends to a drag club, so she said, and sent me photos before she left of her and her friend. She was wearing a very explicit outfit, tight, dark skirt and a revealing top and a choker. She looked amazing, but immediately it bothered me because she never wore this for me or around me. Upon further investigation of this photo and a couple others, I saw she had taken her wedding ring off. That was a huge red flag, but she gaffed it off as being mad at me because I was mean and us fighting. I gave her all my passwords and usernames. She could have full access to anything because it doesn't bother me. She would be reluctant to give me hers though, but after a while she would give it to me, but it wouldn't work for me and she would just say, "Weird? It works for me." In September 2018, we were still having issues. This one was the worst. One evening she accidentally sent me her location over iMessage and said, "I don't know why I sent that, lol," and I had that bad gut feeling, you know. I looked up the location on Google Earth and the roads and area looked familiar around where we lived, and I soon found out that this was her ex-boyfriend's house. I was crushed and furious. I blew her phone up, demanding to get on FaceTime so I could see where she was at. She sent text saying she has bad service. And after about 20 minutes she FaceTimed, and she was driving down a road don't know where. I was yelling, and she said she was at her friend's and had bad service, etc. She started crying and I was just lost. I should have made her stop to see what road she was on, but she was telling me she was at her friend's house. She claimed that she wasn't at Levi's and doesn't know why it sent that location. She said that it must have been her old iPad she left at his house. I talked to people online about the situation anonymously, and they said there is no way the location could have came from another device. I don't know what to believe, and to this day it haunts me and keeps me up. The thought, really getting into the fine detail of what would have or did take place in the process of going over to his house. The thought of them having love drives me insane. I can be fine and think about this and I'll be depressed and furious. After getting home from deployment, she and I stayed with another couple I served with. I was going through her phone one night and saw she still had her ex's Instagram connected to her Instagram. I had to get up and go PT, and I refused to talk to her, and it was eating her alive why I wouldn't talk to her. She really wanted to know what was going on, so after we left PT and got back to the house she wouldn't leave me alone about it, so I told her and she was like, "Oh. I knew it would be that, here let me show you," and showed me that it had been like that for forever since they dated and that she was never able to take it off and showed me she couldn't. Also, I saw on her Snap camera roll, days before we started dating again in 2017, she was hanging out with her ex. It has since been deleted for I couldn't find it later. As well as all the photos and screenshots of conversations and horrible things she said and the location she sent me, etc., were deleted, and she said she deleted them and smirked about it. She has said that her ex-boyfriend from back in middle school has given her the most hickeys on her breast and that I hadn't when we were just talking. This isn't cheating, but I don't know why she would say something like that to me. She also went to a party at her friend's house and her other ex was there as well. We have a son together and he is perfect and I love them both so much, but I still have bad days where I think of all this and right now I have to put it all out and hope for some feedback and advice. Update. So after looking at all the comments and thinking about this for the past couple of days, I went online and talked to an Apple support employee about whether or not it is ever possible that you could send your current location of your iPhone and it send a location from somewhere else or off of another device. This was one of her reasonings for the location being at her ex's house. She said she left her old iPad there and it was still signed into her iCloud and Apple ID. The employee was very thorough and kind and assured me that is not true. After learning this, I realized how easy it was to get that confirmation, and it has been over 2 years and I never once got online to find out the truth like I just did. I guess I have just been taking the easiest route and pushing it down and suppressing the emotions I have felt. Just denying it, to put it plainly. Now I am asking for your all's help again, if you all would be kind enough to do so once again. I have proof that she was at her ex's house, but how do I find out that she actually cheated? Proof? How can I get her to admit it to me? I have asked her about this several times before and she always denies it and won't sway. She says she wasn't there and I don't know, and what else you want me to say? I told this woman that I would never divorce her, and I meant that because I really do love her, but I just want to be sure if I ever got to that point that it is for the right reasons. She is back home for another week or two while I'm at base working. She has our son and she's spending time with family and friends. Should I write out a message that explains everything and says what I want to hear and the truth I want? Or wait till she gets back? Just leave it alone until we can talk alone? Edit, she just admitted to being there, but she said she was just picking up her iPad that she left there and a bag of clothes. The iPad that she said later was probably where the location was coming from. Update. Some people are calling me a loser because I promised my wife to try my hardest and fix this, and that promise is what got me the answer. She now swears up and down that this was the only time she has cheated on me while being married. I hated that she did this to me, but I can't deny that I love her. She was my best friend, I thought. She knows me better than anyone. We had a son together. I missed his birth. I just missed his first steps as well, which happened 2 nights ago, and I told her, when I got home that night, I accept all those things that happened because it's part of the job, but when your wife ducks her ex while you're deployed is not part of the job. Or it could be with how often it happens. She said that her ex had been texting her every few months from around July 2017 to September 2018 when she cheated, but she never responded to his texts. Not until that day that she cheated. There are some days where I'm alright, and then the next moment I'm full of sadness or anger. I'm honestly not sure what I'm going to do. I'm on the fence, and if you all could point me in the right direction for legal advice on which direction to go, I'd appreciate that as well. I am going to bring up to my first sergeant here soon that I may divorce my wife in the near future, and gaining full custody of our son is a likely possibility. I'm angry at her ex as well. I feel as if I don't go beat him, I'll be a loser, but I feel also that if I leave him be, then I'll be the bigger person. Update. There has been a lot going on and more lies I have found, and just millions of thoughts going through my head. My wife told me he texted her one day, and she responded and went to his house to hang out. They were talking, and he asked how the married life was, and she told him we fight all the time, it's rocky, etc. He kissed her, and they had love, and she accidentally sent me her location. She said they talked a few days later, and then she told him she couldn't do this anymore. I had been trying to reach her ex through social media with no luck, so I then called him because I just knew there had to be more. He didn't answer, so I left it be. I ended up getting a call from him about an hour later. He didn't know who it was, so I told him, and he asked what was going on. I asked him if him and my wife had contact, and he told me that she came over to his house during a house party where his buddies were over, and my wife came over with her younger cousin, and she was telling everyone we were divorced and told his mom we divorced, and so he was basically saying that he didn't know we were married. He also asked if I had any ill will towards him or anything like that, and I said no, I hate what y'all did, but if you didn't know then it ain't your fault. Told him that I would contact him again soon for more help. I tell my wife and our counselor, because we go to counseling now, about our conversation, and they both think I am crazy for contacting him. My wife denies it and says we can talk later about it. Later she writes me messages, because I told her if it's easier she can admit it on there, the whole truth now, she says. She said she saw him at a fair and they talked for a few minutes. He texted her a few days later and they started talking. One day he asked her what she was doing and asked if she wanted to come over. She went over and they end up having closeness. She says this is the only time they had love. She says they would hang out, but only by meeting up and her getting in his truck and going on like hour-long rides, sometimes kissing each other goodbye. She says it was about a month-long affair, closeness one time and the rest emotional, it looks like. She had a BF while I was gone basically. She says she broke it off with him the day before she left to come to where I was going to be upon returning from deployment. That makes me think she only left him because she came to be with me. She says she ghosted him. She told me she did tell his mom we are probably going to get divorced when they saw each other at another festival. Somehow his mom knew they were talking, is what she said. She says that he did know we were married because he would always ask how's the married life in a crappy tone when he saw her, and she said she always said it's fine but said it was rocky and we're always fighting that one time. She told me her uncle saw her truck at his house the day she cheated, and one time her uncle and mom got into an argument and he brought up my wife being over at her ex's house while I was gone, and my wife denied it when her mom asked. Her uncle told my wife's grandma, and her grandma told my wife that she didn't want to get in between her and Bill's argument and just to think about what you do before you do it. We had a Christmas party with all these people after I got home and no one said anything to me about this. So now her family shows they do not care about me or truly love me, right? Our counselor asked me on our first session how it makes me feel referring to the cheating, and I said it makes me upset and mad and sad, just emotional, etc. And she said why? It was over 2 years ago? And my wife agreed, like am I crazy? My wife was hiding the fact she was doing something for years from me, even before we dated. She told me this was nasty and that she didn't want me doing it, so I didn't, and I rarely did it, and then I found out through her Google search history she was doing this for years, and she was like, I don't care if you do it now. I was embarrassed to tell you, no one else knows. I don't want to what it was, but it really hurt. She also lied by a whole lot about how much was on her credit card, and now I have to worry about that as well. Last night we were arguing and she threw and broke my phone. I honestly think she is different now and loves me, but I can't trust her, and I've talked to attorneys and will most likely get a divorce. She seems to have not changed how she is, except maybe she's not a cheater anymore.